I'm Alex Kapelman. That's LeBron James, and this is Shrewd Clever Slick, a podcast about everything NBA Top Shot. Welcome to our very first episode. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. Today we're going to talk about the latest craziness with Top Shot. We're going to play a game called Flip or Hold. I'll tell you all about that later, although it's pretty self-explanatory. And we're going to hear about our guest's take on the Top Shot market. He is one of the best-known analysts in the Top Shot game. His name is Pete Balistracci, or better known in the Top Shot community, Plunge Father. We're just going to call him Plunge. I'm bringing him in right now. Plunge, thank you so much for coming on.
Happy to be here. Glad to kick it off. It's exciting to be the first guest on something new.
Got to go with the Plunge Father for the first time. So first off, just to get everything out of the way, and I think it's a good tee up in general for what Top Shot is, Plunge Father kind of relates to the fact that this is all kind of a bet, right? Can you just explain the name real quick?
Yeah, so the name actually comes from a secondary definition of the term plunger, which is sort of a reckless gambler or speculator. And it actually, the name was incepted by one of my good buddies, Richie. We put together a sort of fantasy sports betting league that started with 15 guys about 5 years ago, that we basically created a fantasy decathlon to, you know, who is the best at fantasy across all sports and different types of fantasy competitions. And that has morphed into sort of a social network, a Discord of sorts. We have a Slack, peer-to-peer betting network, and the league is still going strong. In 5 years, I haven't won the Golden Plunger Award, but that's sort of, I've been the Plunge Father. That's been my handle in that Slack for 5 years, but it just made its way onto Twitter in the last month or so with the onset of Top Shot, which I learned about in that Slack from one of my other good buddies who I went to college with, Jeff. So I sort of transitioned that into the public consciousness, and it's sort of been a wild ride. Literally just before this was the 2000th follower. I think I hit it like 5 minutes before we started. So that's, crazy.
Beautiful. So I just got a text from one of the early adopters, AKA my brother, Scott, saying that the stream can see my entire screen. This is the benefit of being an early adopter. You can see all the crazy things. Can we still see the entire screen? Is that what's going on right now? If you could maybe comment in it, that would be great. But in the meantime, let's just talk about how insane things are. Maybe we'll take some comments later. But like I'm pretty new to this. I started 2 weeks ago and I thought like this is cool and got fairly obsessed. And I think things are insane right now. Like I can't imagine you've been in this for how long, and things are a month. Okay, so you really got me. But like how are you feeling about all this?
I'm feeling exceptionally bullish. It's sort of pinched me, especially after last night with the amount of marketplace activity. And I know that many people use the different account valuation tools that are out there, like intangible.market that Veerman put together and has been around for a really long time. And some of the newer tools from the guys at like evaluate.market, they have another account evaluation tool, as well as Optiballer, which is another one that many people might not know about. But when you start looking at those account evaluation tools and you realize, holy cow, like this is a lot different than what I started with or what I put in money or like initial seed money, it is sort of a pinch me moment. So I want to be very clear. I know that you said you've been in for 2 weeks. My first moment that I bought was on January 18th. So I've been in for just over a month. But that seems like a year in Top Shot time. So I am incredibly deferential to the OGs and people that have been here since what I call in Top Shot time pre-Bales, which is sort of like the pre-Bales sale that was the big $35,000 sale, and then like after Bales, so like PB and AB in terms of time. But I'm certainly new to this as well, even if it's only 2 weeks longer than yourself, but it has been a wild ride, and I've been enjoying it and just absorbing as much as I can and learning as much as I can, not just about Top Shot, but about the NFT space in general, which is not something that I had any exposure to before hopping in. And I'm finding more and more that is interesting and exciting and fun to play around in.
Lovely. So in true Top Shot fashion, I'm going to take a minute and go into maintenance mode and figure out what is going on with this whole share screen thing. Very new. Planned on, by the way, for everyone else, planned on launching in March, but because things have been so crazy, I figured I'm super excited about all this. We're all super excited about all this. So I'm going to try to figure out how to do this. Boom and boom. Except get out of here. So, and I'm assuming still the whole screen, unfortunately. Is it because I'm in live demo mode? That might be it. How about now? Cool.
Is it good?
I don't know. I have no idea. We'll find out. So in the meantime, let's go on to the next question.
Sure.
So obviously with all of these things happening, like, why do you think it's like, why now? Do you know? Like, why now?
Why has Top Shot taken off now? Like instead of a year ago or anything like that?
Yeah. What's the impetus for this happening right now rather than a week ago or a month from now?
Sure. I think you can point to a lot of factors, and anybody that says, "Hey, it's this thing and it's this thing alone," is jaded or an idiot. I think there's a lot of things that are contributing to this. One thing to keep in mind is that there was a lot of sustained, pretty strong activity even before the bail stuff. Like things were growing very well organically, and then when all of that took off, when we got a lot of media attention from news stories and so forth, and new users coming in, things spiked, and we had that $7 million day on whatever it was. I think it was like the 24th of January. So just a week after I got in, we had this massive spike. And since then, there was a relative depression, right? Like in the marketplace, that it was a supply issue. They had issues dropping packs. There were marketplace maintenance mode for like big portions of the week following. So that sort of trickled down, and it sort of went further down than the growth that it had gained organically before that. But now, as more and more packs are being released into the ecosystem with the holo drops and the Cool Cats drops and all of these other things, supply matters a lot, because supply means people are flipping moments. They have money in their Dapper accounts to spend. And new users are coming to the platform on the backs of word of mouth to be like, hey, there's a pack drop, make an account. And, notwithstanding the bots that are creating like hundreds of thousands, or tens of thousands of accounts trying to snag these packs up, there's tons of regular people too. Like I've personally brought in, or the group of guys that I'm in, there's probably 10 more people in the last few weeks that have hopped in just to like speculate as well. So there's just more word of mouth stuff, and as they start to and that all of that, that 2-minute explanation hasn't even mentioned that Barstool picked it up, and it was mentioned by Gary Vee multiple times now. Mark Cuban blog, Logan Paul hit it on his podcast, and he's super big into the collectibles from a Pokemon perspective. So he sort of got that angle and that market in, as well as, just a handful of other ESPN stories. Pablo Torre picked it up yesterday, Windhorse the day before. So there's a lot more attention on it, just visible eyeballs from, all the traditional media outlets, or other traditional media outlets that are bringing people in, even if they're not turning on the marketing hose, specifically, which I'm, hopefully they have the technical things in hand to make that work, but we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine like all this insane, like working there and having all this insane growth. I mean, and also, I mean, just to mention a couple other things that I saw. I'm sorry?
It's a good problem to have. Great
problem to have. Like when I saw, so I actually tried to get a Cool Cat pack, and I had some issues with like checking out. Like it just reset me in line, and I was so mad. And I was like so mad. But the reason I was mad is because I really, really wanted one. I was like, oh, okay, this bodes well. Like it's going to be okay.
Right.
So I mean, I don't know, like on the one hand, like all of this growth is obviously amazing and kind of really proves, or is starting to prove like, oh, this thing could be real and people are interested in this. On the other hand, like I'm not able to pick up cards for or moments for as cheap now. Right. And like I'm seeing like all of these things that I just missed out on. It's like, oh, I wanted to buy that Obi top in, but now it's like crazy. Or like the Anthony Edwards thing I saw went up like 100% a couple days ago, like insane growth.
Yeah.
So do you think that this growth, I'm sure the answer is going to be yes, but like, do you think that this insane growth is good for Top Shot or bad or somewhere in between?
I think generally good. It means there's demand. I think the challenges that they have are with massive demand and diminished supply, you run into problems, and that you will see if they don't pick up the supply again to support this massive influx of users, or the assumed massive influx of users, which it seems to suggest with sales volume as well as just number of people that are transacting on the marketplace. For a long time in the last few weeks, there were 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 unique buyers or sellers on a given day. And the last couple of days, it's been like 12. So
Crazy.
If you just take that as an indication of people that are actively engaging in the marketplace, independent of how many unique accounts are created, right? Like the people that are moving and shaking the market, there's twice as many people. And there's right now, at least outside of that Cool Cats pack drop that we got, whatever day that was, I guess it was Monday. Yeah, it was Monday.
Right?
That we got 20,000 or just around 20,000 times 5 or 100,000 new moments into the market. And right, like it's a supply thing as much as it is a new user thing. So if we get a pack drop with all of these suspected new 50,000 mints, all of the, I saw the first mint, Luke on the first mint, and Phil D, who we're on a podcast later on tonight.
By the way, for people who are uninitiated, the First Mint is a podcast, one of my favorite Top Shot NBA podcasts, aside from Shrewd Clever Slick, of course. But sorry, keep going.
Yeah, so Phil found, and I think other people had found as well, you could search on the marketplace for these new players that didn't have moments yet. So we know they're coming. We know that there's more base set Series 2 moments coming, that there are going to be pack drops to drop. The filters got expanded to 50,000 for serial number lookup. So the assumption is that at the very least, there is going to be a 50,000 serial number mint for these new moments, or for some of the existing moments that are CC at 15,000. But what that will do, let's say that this weekend or today or whatever, they drop 200,000 packs, right? You've got 200,000 times 3. You've got 6 times as much stuff entering the marketplace from a supply perspective than you did with the Cool Cats drop on Monday. Like, I think the marketplace activity this weekend is going to be massive. That said, I think everybody and anybody that's new to this recognize that there are factors at play that like are unknowns, right? Markets are going to market, and there are factors that nobody has like seen in practice at the scale that we are at now. So it would be silly for me or for anyone to be like, I know exactly what's going to happen, because there are so many variables that are out there that will affect what happens with the market. And I think we cannot discount, and I keep telling this to everyone, and Luke is a big proponent of this as well, like this is a game, right? Like there is a game master. His name is Alan. And this is all, there is a 5-year and a 10-year plan for how this stuff is usable. And there is utility to these things other than being able to buy and sell them at a profit or a loss.
Right. And just to interrupt, like this is part of like this, they've talked about like having this be a game. They have like prophero.live, which is like a quick live betting thing. They're trying out this fantasy league thing, but like, there's also this, like, it's not just like it's a game, like, like investing is a game in general. Like, you mean like it's like they literally think of this as a game.
Right. Yeah. Right now, the utility of your moment is buying and selling it on the market, or using it to achieve a challenge reward, which is part of the reason why some of these Cool Cats, the gift moments that people received for free for being a user that had been met specific criteria before, that they airdropped into our wallets, right? Those are part of a gamification thing. They have utility outside of just being able to buy and sell them, right? They can achieve you something. And to your point, I think you're mentioning sort of the prop, I forget the
Prop Hero. Yeah.
Right. Prop Hero. And then Swish is another app.
That's the fantasy league. Yeah.
Right. And there's also another one. They actually have a game called Hardcourt that they're planning towards. We don't know much about it yet, but it's props, NBA Top Shot proper, they are going to release this hard court thing at some point. There's going to be utility to this stuff outside of just being able to buy and sell it. And in the same way that, I'm not a big gamer, I don't game on my own, but there are, you hear people talk about what happens in FIFA with cards or some of these other games where you can buy digital assets to then do something with, right? Like there's going to be some element of that they haven't been able to realize yet. Like we're at the point where, let's say it's 2%, right? Like this is 2% of the final vision, right? The final vision is not the end of this season. The final vision is probably 5 years down the line when there's 200 or, there's 2 million or 20 million people on the platform. So we're sort of not just dipping our toe into like the shallow end. We're like getting our bathing suit on. Like if we're talking about diving into the pool, like we're not there yet. And I think people, if they're looking at this in terms of like Top Shot, this marketplace, this is the final realized version of what it's going to be. You're doing it wrong and you're probably going to get burned by it in some way. So I'm not in the business of giving investment advice, right? Like this is for fun. All of my opinions are my own and yada, yada. I'm not affiliated with NBA Top Shot. These are my opinions on this stuff. But like, I talk to a lot of really smart people that are way smarter than me and way further in the know. And it's really interesting to see that like this growth is good because it helps us get further down the path of what the further realized vision of this stuff is, because it's fun. To your point about opening packs, it's fun to do that stuff outside of just buying and selling, right? That's a huge, cool thing to be able to buy a pack and crack it. And even if it's got like $7 or probably not worth more than $7 now, but like it's got some like, basic Ivica Zubac's in it or whatever. Like, I don't care. It's still fun to open that thing. And up until now, it's been really profitable as well.
Yeah, I would call Zubac nothing but basic. He's a beast. So thinking about things moving forward now that we have this change in the market, and especially with an eye towards people who are new at this and maybe coming in for the first time, how are you, like, I'd be interested in kind of just hearing your process about how you think about the market and what your process is about what to sell, what to hold,
Sure.
When you wake up in the morning, what you do, like, do you just
what do I look at first?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Take us through your Top Shot day.
My Top Shot day. Oh man, it's a day. So I have, like I said, this plungers group that I'm in, that's what we call it, the plungers. We have a channel in there, and that's sort of my, for everybody else that's familiar with Discord and the Top Shot Discord or some version of a top, but that's a smaller group, that I sort of hop in there and see what, if anything, is, people have said. I hop onto Twitter first to see like, all right, for the notifications I have set up for, for the First Mint or for Chugs and Bugs or for the Evaluate.market guys or for MBL or for Andy, some of these other big names in the Twitter sphere, Pete Overzet, like Jack Settleman, Peter Jennings, all of these guys, like who said what, did anything happen overnight? Like, did more packs drop? Did they change anything on the site? Just to get a sense of like, okay, before I even go look at what the prices are right now, has there been any news or like circulation that would inform how I look at a price or how I see something that's happening? Because outside of context, it's really hard to figure out, like, why is that thing that price, and you mentioned Obi Toppin before. Like if you just woke up yesterday from the day before and you were like, why is Obi Toppin $250 right now? It was $90 the day before, or $95 or whatever it was. And you have to realize like what's happening, right? Like there's more people, there are more transactions happening. There is a massive spike and run on rookies more broadly. And you start to dig into those things like, oh, okay, there's a Wiseman run and an Edwards run and a LaMelo run. Like, is Obi catching up? Or like, is he someone that like maybe is lagging behind a little?
All right, we're back. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Can you all hear us? It's basically for people getting in on this. What should we look for? Like my strategy would be like, okay, well, did Obi Toppin have a good game? Did they not have a good game, or did he not have a good game? Right? Like, but then there's also, I mean, I don't know. What are you thinking about when you look for that stuff?
I think they're in very specific circumstances. prices get affected in the short term by performance. And I've actually we tried to test this out a couple weeks ago, which was kind of funny. It was bad timing because it was sort of at the bottom end of the 24th, but the weekend following that, we saw that Boston was playing the Lakers, and we were like, they're in Saturday prime time. Hey, let's buy a Jason Tatum and a couple Kembas and see if they get some pump from this exposure on national TV. Well, didn't do jack, right? They just dropped. So like, and there was another point where Fred VanVleet maybe 2 weeks ago dropped like 50,
yeah.
Right. So I bought one in the second half. I bought one of the base one series one or base set series one Fred VanVleet's for like $50, kind of as it was shooting up, right? And then it just kind of came back down. So and it's probably not that way across the board, but I have seen, and I'm sort of getting the sense, at least right now, when the utility is simply as an asset that you can flip in the market, and it doesn't really have a utility in a fantasy or a daily fantasy style, like, is the performance of this player going to affect my potential rewards or winnings, that it really doesn't have that much effect in the grand scheme of things. That's not to say that it shouldn't call your attention to something that, like, oh wait, that player is really awesome and they might be undervalued, right? Like Bradley Beal's a good example. Like, he's an all-star starter. He probably is an undervalued relative to other all-star starters on the platform in Top Shot. Like, and he's got a ton of attention right now. And I bet he will have even more attention if the Wizards decide to trade him, right? Like, there's some option there or some thought process there that, like, maybe Bradley Beal is someone to take a look at, because you look at the big star power names that are across the rest of the roster, in the starting positions, for example, and pretty much everybody's like at the top of the market for the most part. But he might be under, or, you know, you look at someone else that's sort of in that thing. So I think finding angles like that can be fun, because it can leverage some of the knowledge that you have as a basketball fan, which someone like me might not, right? Like, try and use that knowledge to your advantage. But also recognize that the market isn't necessarily acting on behalf of player performance. So yeah, that's just one thought, but something to think about.
Okay. So have we gotten through your process yet? We started with the day. We started with you checking things. Like, where are we at in your day? What time is it right now? Have you had your cup of coffee yet?
Yeah. I mean, I've got kids and dogs and chickens, and I got all sorts of stuff. I'm out in the country, man. I just got everything. So, you know, I got to do all of that. I'm kind of on my phone here and there, and checking Twitter and sort of doing that stuff. But when I get to my computer, you know, in between meetings and such, like, I would then go look at my account and, like, is there anything that I own right now that I think I would be better served shifting gears and selling at a profit, or and repurposing that, you know, asset into something that might have some more legs. I actually haven't done a whole lot of flipping, right? Because everything, roughly speaking, has been trending upwards, and I sort of like some of the choices that I made early. I'm like, maybe philosophically or psychologically is probably better word, psychologically attached to them subconsciously. Like, I made a bet, like, I got to stick it out type of thing. But I think it's really important when you're thinking about, like, what I'm going for is, like, the long, or, like, what is the time frame in which you're really thinking about what I'm trying to achieve. So for me right now, I'm not actually thinking about this in, like, the 3-5 year trajectory, right? Like, I think it's got legs. I think it's going to go there, but, like, there are challenges that they have to get over the hump on to make this, like, super mainstream. And so I'm sort of looking at this, and most of the bets that I'm making in terms of purchases or acquisitions are sort of towards the end of the season, right? Like, what do I think this thing will do for me and my account the day after the finals, like Game 7 of the finals? Because there's going to be a lull between seasons before opening, like, you know, before they pick back up in October, between, like, July and October, right? Like, what does this look like by July? And when I start to look at things, like, I skew heavily towards thinking about teams that are going to, and players that are going to be in the playoffs, because if the user growth keeps going up, and this is not a thing that I came up with. Like other smarter people have sort of talked me through this and saw this play out last year in terms of values. And in the bubble was like people that had exposure, stars on good teams that made deep runs in the playoffs did well. And it's all well and good to love that Mike Conley has like the best Raptor score of any current player, but like, are the Jazz going to go far in the playoffs, and is he going to get the exposure that he needs to be like a star? Who knows? Like, or like considered a star in the Top Shot market? Maybe not, maybe so, whatever. But like, if you start thinking about who are you projecting to be in the finals that you will have 4 rounds of playoff exposure for? I mean, is it the Heat again? Probably not. Is it, you know, the Sixers in the East, Embiid and Simmons? Like maybe, and Tobias Harris even. Like, is it the Nets, like Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving and James Harden? Like, can that trio take them and put them up against the Lakers or the Clippers in the finals? Like, or, you know, does Denver pull off an upset and Jokic ends up as the MVP? And
They won't.
I don't think so either, but it's possible. I mean, they played really well last year. So like looking at those types of things, like you can start to make bets now or start positioning yourself in like, who do I think is going to be there at the end? Because it's very likely that those things, you know, I don't want to say it's likely, but like it's possible that that will matter in terms of the public consciousness around those players. And they will also get a bump from having, you know, playoff sets of rare moments that you can purchase. And like, there's a residual effect of that as well. In the same way that there is a residual effect on the Derrick Rose moments that are out there right now, even in the base sets, because he's a challenge reward for the gift, right? Like there's those things have risen as well. So it's like people's focus on a particular player or a particular team actually does translate into purchases, it seems, in sales. So think about that. Like maybe that's kind of the way some of what I'm looking at. And then one more thing, I think the one other area, and I don't want to give it away too much, but like scarcity matters, like verifiable scarcity matters, but it's more than that. Because if it was just about scarcity, then all of the 4,000s rookies would be priced exactly the same. It really does matter about the star power and like the perception of the player, right? So, you know, as you're thinking about what are things that are apples to apples, but like the Top Shot views one thing very differently than the other apple in that basket. And, you know, sort of make choices about that. And so whether or not you're looking at the run it back moments for players from the 2014 season, like, yes, they are all minted the same, but like there's a tier of guys that are pretty high up there, right? Like the Dirk and, there's a handful like Kevin Durant, I think is in there. The Giannis, excuse me. I think it's a rookie moment. So that's a big one. But then like you start looking at the tier of guys below. And if you've got a 1-year prospectus or just at the end of the season or a 2-year prospectus or whatever, start looking at which of these guys are going to be in the Hall of Fame. Like they're not going to have new moments, right? Unless they get another run it back moment at the end of the season, or if they decide to keep minting 40 run it back moments every year. But like, who's going into the Hall of Fame this year? Paul Pierce and Chris Bosh. Like, I don't own either of those right now because they're just out of the price point of what I'm liquid with. But like, if I had $2,000 right now that I could spend on stuff, I probably would snag one. Or, you know, if it dipped a little bit, I might snag one of those because like, what is going on outside of the Top Shot world that will affect the prices within it is sort of how I'm thinking about things.
Yeah. And by the way, basketballreference.com has a great, like future Hall of Famer tracker. Like it has like, you know, like predictions and percentages for likelihood of Hall of Famers. So if you're looking for that, that's could be a good resource.
And Nick Collison is probably not going to be on that list, but Ray Allen will, right? And Kevin Garnett is definitely on that list. Full disclosure, I own a Kevin Garnett because it's probably my favorite moment, right? Like we made a choice to go in on this, and like I love it. I think it's awesome. It's probably my favorite moment right now.
Okay, so let's transition to this game.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And then I think we'll also kind of get some advice and strategy stuff and talk about this as we go through this game. But this is a game that I'm calling Flip or Hold. I need a better name for it. If anyone has a better name suggestion, definitely open to suggestions.
Diamond or paper, right?
Diamond or paper?
Diamond hand. You hear Andy talk about this. I follow Andy 8052. I think that's the Twitter handle. And they talk about diamond hands versus paper hands. Diamond hands being strong, like I'm holding.
Oh,
I'm
like
not
the emoji diamond hands.
No, well, just like strong. Like
diamond hands.
You're not gonna get broken. Diamond hand.
Got it.
Versus paper hands, like tissue, right? Like you're just getting rid of it at the first sign of anything, either dip or profit. So diamond hand versus, I don't know. We'll workshop it.
We'll workshop it. Yeah, there's no bad ideas in a workshop. Yeah. So basically the game is going to be Plunge gets to choose one of my moments, okay, that I actually own. And he can either tell me to, so number one, he has two options. He has to tell me to hold on to it for a certain time period for up to 6 months, or I have to list it immediately for whatever price he tells me to list it for. He can't tell me to list my Luca for $1, but he can say for 10% under the lowest available asking price. Not that you would ever do that because you're not a monster. And I have to just do it. And I'm going to be doing this with every single guest I have, no matter what, because why not? It's a game. So we tested, again, beta test, but we tested this before. Plunge, let's see if we can share your screen right here. Nope, that's not the one. Okay, so sharing your screen here, and we'll get you out of here. So, all right, here you go. Take me through this.
All right, so when you sent me this earlier, I sort of did a little shopping spree in your moments to sort of look at if I was looking at this on the marketplace, even though they don't have values, like which ones would I be the most interested in purchasing just as a starting point? So you can see my screen, right? You're seeing.
Yeah. And yes, I can see the screen. I think everyone else can see the screen. And the other thing I'll say is that I do have some moments that I split with some friends. So, right. so Plunge, we talked about those. Yeah. But just so everyone's
I've been, why would I get rid of that one? So what I did initially was just kind of scroll through and look and oh, hey, here's a player that, I like, or that seems to be, doing well that you could, flip. I noticed a couple things and to call out, and I'm curious from your perspective, you look like you enjoy, I don't know if it's a pack cracking thing or if you bought them this way, but you have a couple really nice serial numbers for some of these moments as well. Was that an intentional thing or was that luck?
Did not. I don't think I've cracked. Well, I cracked one pack that I actually won at Prop Hero accidentally by. Well, I won't share my strategy because my friend would probably be mad at me. Sure. But it's not we accidentally fell into the strategy is what I'll say. But these ones I bought, it was a thing. But I feel like serial number actually doesn't matter as much now unless it's really in the top 100 or I don't know. The 193 looks good, but my thousands,
it would command a premium.
Okay.
It would command a premium. And you can look at that actually. So what I did was I pulled up your account in Evaluate that.
Oh my God. $4,500.
Yeah, pretty nice. Pretty nice. I don't know what your initial investment was, but you've got these 33 moments and I just sorted it by market price for right now. And what this is showing is the low ask right now. And I think it's really important to recognize as well, this Luca, this 1999 does not mean that there's been 20 1999 sales. This is just the lowest current ask on the market. It may very well be that the most recent sales were in the $1,500 range, but this just happens to be the low moment. So I always take, your account valuation stuff, at least as it is keyed off of low ask, as sort of a nice measuring stick, but not necessarily if you tried to liquidate everything right now, this is how much you could get. Because I don't think that that's real in the real world, because of liquidity and sales problems with that. So I just sorted it by the market price just to see some of those sort of like what you have, and what the two things that stuck out to me right away were these LeBron James. And I actually talked about this, and I had a long Twitter post on Tuesday about this concept of the players that have a /7500 limited edition moment in base 2 series 2 and a /15,000 CC plus. And, there's only 10 of them. It's like LeBron and Kawhi and Giannis and Trae Young and Tyler Hero and Zion and Ja Morant and Steph Curry and probably 2 or 3 others that I have forgotten. But when I wrote that post, this was $110 on Monday.
That's when I bought it, I think, or maybe not. I don't know. Right. I can't remember, but yeah.
Yeah. So what we can do, actually, there's another tool outside of evaluate.market that's called optiballer.com. And it does the same type of thing, but it also gives you what you paid for it. And it makes some inferences from that. So it doesn't give you like, if you received this as a gift, if you received it as a gift or in a pack, it assumes that it was $3, like 1/3 of $9, which is probably a fair way of thinking about it. But if you start to look at not just what is worth now, but like your relative gain on something, what stuck out to me with this, if you sort it by this, is like this LeBron that you bought for $115, like your gain on it is $300, right? Like, so you're looking at, if you sold it or tried to sell it right now at $419 or $410 or $415, you would lock in almost $300 in profit that you could use somewhere else if you wanted to. Right. And I would say this, and I don't know if you're comfortable with this, but because you have 2 of these, right? Like from a diversification of your assets perspective, like if you really feel strongly that this is not just the new floor of 415 and that this is going to keep going, having 2 of those doubles your potential profit on that. But if you're concerned that like this had a run right now, it's still LE, or excuse me, still CC. The assumption is that it's going to go CC, which is part of the reason why this price skyrocketed.
The assumption is that it's going to go LE, you mean?
Right. Yeah. So it's CC now. The perception is that based on what they blogged about or tweeted about the other night, that was like, hey, we're going to make these common moments limited. The perception is that they will limited edition these ones. It is possible, and I want to make that abundantly clear, it is possible that they will mint more of these LeBron James. Do I think personally that's going to happen? No, but it is possible. So if you want to sort of hedge that bet in some way, you could sell one of these, the higher of the 2 serial numbers, right? So this 8864, right? Sell that one, lock in your profit, because it looks like you may have cracked, or, you spent 115 and 140. So cost averaging, you spent 127.50 or whatever on both of these. Like lock in $300 worth of profit on that, ride out one of those bets to see where it goes and see if it will keep riding out, and then repurpose that other one into another area that you might not be in right now. So like right now, all of your sets are base set stuff. Like, would it be, if you want to get into the metallic gold market, right? Like what can you get in the metallic gold or in the rare market even at that like sort of $300 price point, right? So it's sort of like consolidating assets to trade up, at least in principle. So that was one option. And I certainly don't want to force you to do anything on this, but like, if this was me, I would consider doing something like that. The other option, or another option that I saw in here as well, was, again, going off this, like, what is your realized right now? If you sold it at the current low, what is your realized profit relative to this? And I know this, Maxi, is something that you own with other groups. That gift, this is one that sticks out to me as the gift. Like, what is your intention with the gift? If your intention is to try and get the D Rose and buy the other moments, it's sort of expensive right now. I think most of them are in that $300 range. So you're going to have to shell out $1,200 more to get that D Rose, which is probably, at least as far as I can tell, because they held back half the packs, or I think it was half the packs. They're planning to give them away at some other point. Like the mint for the D Rose, if we assume that 50 to 70% of people that actually got these in packs are going to try and complete that, it puts the mint for the D Rose about 2,500. So are you looking to spend $1,200 more because you got this one for free? Are you looking to spend $1,200 more to get that D Rose for whatever you think it might be worth because you like the Knicks? That might be something that you're considering. Or is it something where, hey, I'm not going to commit to doing this right now. I'm willing to repurpose this asset that I have that was free to me. They literally gave this to you. Like, am I willing to lock in $300 on this now to then go put that $300 towards something else? So those are sort of the two options, like looking at your stack that like if it was my stack, I would consider doing something like that, depending on sort of what your thought process is and why you chose the LeBron James moments at the time that you did. And like, or do you feel like cashing in at least a portion of your chips to lock in some of that profit that you made a bet on earlier? Or are you like, I'm all in and I'm staying in? So those are my two thoughts.
All right. Well, love it. Let me tell you my thinking behind the LeBron, and then my thinking about your thing about Donovan Mitchell. The Maxey, unfortunately, off limits. Although I would still want to hold it because I think he has potential, and it's a rookie, and yeah. So
I like that one too. I wouldn't sell
it. The LeBron, I bought two because I bought the first one, like it was one of the first moments I bought, and the serial number was that 8864, and then I was like, oh no, serial numbers matter. I'll just level up, and I bought that lower serial number, and I was like, I'll just flip the other one for no profit. And then I was like, you know what? And I had it listed for a while, for like a few days, and then I was like, you know what? He's LeBron. I'll just pull it off for a second, and I'm so glad I pulled it off the market. Yeah. But
you're lucky that you were able to.
Yeah.
there was a bunch of people that got stuck with that. Having listings on the market when maintenance went down that tried to cancel them, and then they were snapped up when it came back up. So that is something that you have to be careful about with this is like we are still in beta. I say they are still in beta. I don't work for Top Shot. So there are things that happen like that, and it can be really frustrating. So I'm glad that you lucked out and got it off the market when you did, because now that's, it's 3x or pretty close to it. And it might go up a little bit. I'm not saying that, it might double. Who knows? Like it could be worth $840, down the line if we confirm this CC. And that might be something as well that like maybe wait to do that until it's official. But right now, I think the assumption is there. So you're actually hedging out of the potential for this to not be 15,000 mints. Because if they make it 30,000 and like this LeBron James doesn't happen to be one that they cap at that 15,000, that 415 is not going to hold, right? That's going to drop, and it might come back to that at some point, but that's going to drop right away. So might be worth taking a look at.
Well, here's what I'm thinking about this moment as well. Sorry, I'm still like switching terminologies because playing cards are the thing that started me on this, sure. But sort of. But that moment, the two LeBron moments that I own is like the no look 3-pointer, right? That got played a million times. Awesome. It is, where LeBron, if you're not familiar with it, it's amazing. Check it out. Oh, beautiful. Thank you, Plunge. He shoots the three. Dennis Schroeder, his teammate, looks at, or as he's shooting the three is like, I bet you won't hit that three. And LeBron James pauses, shoots it, looks back towards Dennis Schroeder like, and he said, like, I had to look a man in the eyes to tell him that the bet was there. So you can see him. And then, like, everyone freaks out. It got played a million times. I think it's going to be at the end of LeBron's career, so storied, historic career, which I think he's the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
This is going to be one of the highlights that you will see. Maybe not quite as iconic as the MJ, Brian Russell moment or whatever, but, like, you will see this. So regardless of whether or not it's going to be 15K or 50K, I think, and I'm starting to warm up on like the actual value of an actual moment. I think that this is going to be a moment that people are going to want because it's such an iconic moment itself.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah,
I completely agree. And if I had one of them, I would certainly hold it. I think that looking at your stack, if you're looking at and you want to list something, right, and you want to lock in profit, like you will not go broke locking in profits on things, and a 3x is nice, or pretty close to a 3x on this one. So certainly something to consider. And again, I'm not going to force you to do anything. I know that you said you will do one thing or another, but I like giving you options. And then the Donovan Mitchell one was the other one. But we can look. I've got 2 or 3 more if you want to pick from them.
Here's what I would love to pick from them. I want to hear your thinking, and actually, you need to pick for me.
Okay.
But
are you planning on doing the gift?
Okay, cool. So here was my thinking with Donovan.
Are you planning on doing a gift?
I'm planning on doing the gift, and my thinking is that I think so. Donovan Mitchell's going to be an all-star again, but for some reason he just can't. I think he's like a Paul Pierce level player, where until he wins a championship, he won't be given the respect that he deserves. Right? He's not like he's not a LeBron, he's not a Giannis, he's not a Luka. People who you look at and you say, this is going to be, unless he gets completely injured, he's a Hall of Famer, right? Like he's like,
sure.
I mean, Donovan Mitchell might be a Hall of Famer, but he might be at the level of like Chris Webber, where it's like an incredibly good player, multi-time All-Star, but like still not sure if we're going to get him into the Hall of Fame. So I think he needs to win championships. And like, I mean, if Shaq is telling him a few weeks ago, like there was a whole big moment on TNT where Shaq was like, Donovan Mitchell, you're not for real, essentially. He told him to his face. And that was a whole big weird moment. But basically, if like we're still at that point, I'm okay giving that up, especially because I got it for free. And I want to be able to use that 300 and play around with that 300 because, I can't just keep tossing money into this as much as I want to. And as much as I do, I need to just be like, set limits, because it's like it's betting, so yeah,
I totally agree with you. So pro tip, if you ever are trying to figure out if you have something in the set, by default, if you click this little sets button right here, it shows this URL, which is my dash sets. But if you want to see all sets, even if you don't have any of them, you can delete those out and it actually shows you all sets and which ones you have it in there. So yeah, it's kind of funky, but you've got the 1 out of the 6. What I'm doing is going to look. So that TJ McConnell is the other one that I was looking at. I was trying to make sure that it wasn't part of the Cool Catch challenge, but let's take a look really quick. Active challenges for this, and it's going to show mine. I've got 9 out of 10. I just need that wall left. But I think that, so that is,
if anyone has a wall, he wants to sell the Plunge Father,
you
can hit him up at Plunge Father. Yeah.
Please do. If you're selling it for below market price, I would be willing to look at something right now. I think this one's like, it's like $299 or $250, and it was $110 the other day. So this TJ McConnell, so that's another one that you have. And I gather based on what's in your inventory right now that you're not currently going for the Cool Cats AD.
No.
This one right here, this TJ McConnell, if we go back to your evaluate market and look at this, and we jump into the moment page, you will see in the analyzer, like what this was before the Cool Cats was deleted. And if you haven't seen this before, you can sort of drag and take a look and it'll zoom in on a particular moment over time. So the Cool Cats were announced, like the challenge for AD was announced sort of in the last week or so. Before, it was like this TJ McConnell moment was going for like $2 or $3. It was a very common moment. It's possible that it will get minted to more than 15,000. And then once it got announced, everything started going banana land, right? So you've got this moment that because it was needed to complete this challenge, everybody started buying it up at like $10, $15, $20, right? So if you think at all that this TJ McConnell might come back down at some point, whether or not it's right now or as you get closer to the end of the Cool Cats challenge, you shoof sell that, or I think you should. This is not investment advice. If it was my TJ McConnell and I was not going for the Cool Cat, I would capitalize on the fact that it's needed for all of the other people that have Cool Cats challenges that they're trying to account for, because this is probably a $3 to $5 moment in the grand scheme of things, but because it's got utility right now, again, back to that concept of utility, because it's got utility right now, the low ask on it is like $25. So this is like, in my mind, you can try and time it. You can think it's going to go up, but like, are you really going to spend time doing the projection to figure out how much a 15,000 cc TJ McConnell is going to, go up from the $24? Like, if it was me right now, I think this is probably the one where it's just like, capitalize on the rush. Don't, try not to absorb any other things. Like, just be happy with the fact that 4 turned into 24 and use that 24 for something else that's not part of a challenge that might have more runway on the way up. So maybe
Love it.
that's the one.
Love it. All right, you tell me out of those
Let's do that
three,
one.
we're doing the T.J. McConnell. I might also do the
Yeah,
Donovan Mitchell too, just so you know. But
up to you.
love it. Okay, so I'm conscious of the time. It's 12:53. I know you have to go at 1. Before we go, I do want to take some questions. So, yeah, let me go back to our main scene. Love producing everything myself in video. So Andrew says, and by the way, the last time I tried to do this, that's when we crashed. So let's see if it works. If not, we'll be right back. But Andrew asks, would you flip a CJ gift moment to get the Barton or Stanley plus cash for CC challenge? Can we interpret that for those who don't know? So yeah, I can do it, but you should do it. Actually,
Yeah,
I'll
so
leave it up.
The CJ McCollum gift moment is another one of the gifts. So you have the Donovan Mitchell. It is one of 5. There was a handful of others that are necessary for the Derrick Rose challenge. So I think I can't. I don't. Let me look it up right now. But what is the TJ McConnell worth right now? Or excuse me, not the CJ McCollum. TJ McConnell and CJ McCollum are very close
Yeah.
to each other.
There's T.J.
All right.
Warren. Yeah, don't worry. The Pacers, by the way, fun fact, I think have had half the TJs that have ever played in the league or something crazy like that. It's something really
Yeah.
weird. Yeah.
So it's 248 right now. So, because it's part of a challenge, like volume, you don't have to list it way below that, right? Like you could probably put it for 245 and sell it immediately. Take your 5% haircut. Like you got to factor that into everything, right? That's the transaction fee. If you're doing a Dapper transaction for it, if there are ways that you can transfer or gift or set up a trade or something like that with someone that you trust, obviously don't do it with anybody that you can't verify for, or you're not using sort of like some escrow person in between. If you need something like that, let me know. I'm always available to help with that. I'm like a generally not shady person. So, if you need help, let me know. I would be happy to stand in between parties to try and facilitate that type of stuff. But with that, I think what was it? It was the remaining pieces. He was looking for cash, the Stanley, and the Barton. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. And also
Yeah,
12:55. I want to get to a few other questions. So let's wrap
sure.
this one up quick, and then we can do rapid fire for the others.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, I think so. Like use that instead of pouring more money from your credit card or other crypto asset into this, repurpose your assets. Like it's tough to get rid of those things and to let go, but it's okay to make a decision where something that you got for free that's now worth $250 can go to work for you in a different way because you're not interested in it. Like you take advantage of the fact that someone else is interested in it and be done with it, clear it of your mind and now use that new capital to achieve whatever you need to with Barton and Stanley and whatever else for the cool cat. So I'd say go for it.
Awesome. All right.
Again,
Next.
not investing
Oh.
advice.
All right. Next one. I'm Yo Daddy 3X.
Ooh.
I have a cool cat number 7 Tyler Hero. What do you think a good sell price is with all this movement? Highest offer I've gotten from the site is $1,500. What are your thoughts?
It's a tough one. And this is one where I think the functionality that they are talking about potentially bringing out down the line of having sort of a bid system and a sell system where you can put up a bid for what you're willing to pay for something will help facilitate greatly. If you're going to do this, I think you price it at try and find on evaluate.market what other sales in the top 10, if any, have gone for to help justify anything. If you need to do that. But in many of these cases, you might have to try and find and solicit a buyer for something that there's this specific niche thing for. It may not be that there's all that much interest in the general market. The people that will buy this, the are a very, very small subset of the market. So you kind of have to if you're really trying to get it off your hands, you might have to go find someone to do that. So if that's, I don't know if I'm Yo Daddy 3 times is your name on Top Shot, but if anybody that's listening to this now wants that number 7 Tyler Hero, hit him up. And hopefully you can find him because I think soliciting that is is probably the right way. If you do end up listing it, it might take some time, but start high and sort of work your way down, let it sit there for a little bit, work your way down, let it sit there for a little bit, and try and get a snag. If you're trying to get liquid quick, then, list it at a really low price and just try and, take your money that, assuming that you cracked it in a pack. Again, that is $14 that you have turned into some massive number. So try not to get too locked down in it's worth this because that's what the other listings around it are. The only thing that matters is what someone's willing to pay for it.
All right, next question. We'll do them real rapid fire, 30 seconds or less maybe. For people just getting into this.
I can stay on a couple minutes beyond. I'm good.
The Plunge Father's time is valuable, we know. That sounded sarcastic, but it's true. So for people just getting in, what should we look at to pick good moments? Like we talked a little bit about this, but like what else should we look at that we haven't mentioned earlier?
Yeah, I think there are so many ways to play this game that listening to someone like me just like prognosticate about like what is good is like, I have a very unique lens, and something to recognize as well. Like I don't really play in the metallic golds or the hollow icons. I don't have a ton of base set series 1. I don't have a ton of rares from other things. So like there are so many different little like sub markets within the market that like I'm just not an expert on. But I think for someone coming in, I think finding players that you like actually matters here, because it's more fun, and seeing like someone that you is on your team or a big superstar and sort of seeing the rise and fall. Like you can sort of get a general sense of the market as a whole from a really high volume purchase, right? So like that LeBron that you're talking about, like buying that, you will know what the market is doing because of what that LeBron is doing, roughly speaking. So, I'd say like, if you can find some of the lower price, big names, some of the guys that are, Tyler Hero is a good example. Like Tyler Hero, base moment might be somewhere in the $15 range now. I think it was like $7 earlier in the week or something, or a Trae Young, or some of these players that are like up and coming. And, if your long-term prospectus is 2, 3, 5 years down the line, cool. Like those are cool, like not that risky investments. But I would say find something that you wouldn't get mad or you wouldn't feel bad about like owning for a significant period of time, because it's cool to look at. And I think that LeBron one is a really good example. And you hit on this on the head, nailed it. That like, I think that moment is the coolest moment on Top Shot. By far. I think the Kobe dunk gets a lot of hype because it's the Kobe dunk, but frankly, I didn't even remember that dunk happened until I came to Top Shot. I mean, I know there's other LeBron iconic plays. It's iconic on Top Shot, but that 3, I remember that 3. Like I remember when that happened, and I wasn't even like a basketball fan. Like I've watched more games in the last month than I have in my entire adult life, because I am like curious and interested now. But I remember seeing that on SportsCenter, but I don't remember the Kobe dunk. And that may be just I was sick that week or something. But like I find something that the moment itself is cool. That Robin Lopez, that is super cheap. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but that Robin Lopez moment that he's like falling backwards and throwing a basket, like he's like falling away from the hoop and just like chucks it up and gets it in. Like that moment is cool. So find something that you wouldn't mind looking at, or that you'd be happy with if you had to keep it, and not feel like, oh crap, this is just a financial vehicle, right? Like owning the moment itself is cool in the same way that owning a physical card or, a poster or a piece of art or whatever, like there is some utility to you outside of just an investment vehicle as well. So spend some time, look around, and see what's there.
All right. Next question is from Mohammed. What are your thoughts on the Hollow Season 2 prices or Series 2 prices, and how that'll affect how many people do the next 2 icon challenges?
So I actually pulled this together this morning, and I don't know if you're referencing my tweet, but it's bananas how much the Hollow icon prices spiked. I think that right now the floor ask for all of the Trae Youngs, all 9 of the Hollow icons that are required for the Trae Young challenge is $35,000. And I think between last Friday when I calculated it before and took it all down, and now it's gone up like 80%. It's like, it was 20,000 or just around 20,000 for all 9 of them. And for anybody that's not aware, there's a Hollow, and because most of us are priced out of it anyway, like there is a Hollow icon challenge right now. There were There was a hollow icon pack drop where 27 different moments that have 99 total mints were released, $1,000 a pack, and the moments that came out with them started at like a floor of around $1,000, but have since gone up pretty considerably. It sort of hovered around, it like kind of bounced up and down. But the moments that are a part of this Trae Young Hollow Icon Challenge, like Trae is the reward at the end of it, are like spiked up relative to the other 18 that are not currently part of a challenge. So what I think is to keep in mind, Mohammed, here is that like even if you or I or someone else like can't play in that particular end of the pool, like there are plenty of people that can convert their Dapper Bucks into this stuff and are already preparing for the next challenge. And the next challenge is either Jokic or Harden. So those are even bigger and better than the Trae Young, in my opinion. I think both of those are better moments and better players. So I would not be surprised if the 9 moments that come out, let's say Jokic is next, the 9 moments that are required for the Jokic, even if one of them is a Curry or is the Kawhi, I think is the other one. Like if you're looking at the AD right now as the top of the hollow icon, like that's required, the AD is worth like right now low ask of 9,500. So like it's very likely that those prices are just going to jump considerably because the people that are playing in that end of the pool are already buying those other moments that are required for those other challenges so that they can have them before the prices spike.
Cool. All right. Well, office hours is starting. So I'll let everyone go. Plunge Father, you can find him on Twitter at PlungeFather. Anything else to promote?
Yeah, so I'll be back on YouTube Live tonight with the first mint at 7 p.m. Central, so 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific with Luke and Phil D. We've got Arsenic on. There's a Zeller raffle going on with that, which is pretty fun. You don't have to have a Zeller to enter. We're going to give away like, I think it's like north of like $5,000 worth of stuff tonight. It's going to be a blast. I just hit 2,000 Twitter followers, so I'll probably give away something related to that. It's a good time. We got Steph Sudo on as well. I think that's how you say her last name. She's a Top Shot aficionado in Twitter land, breaking news and such. We've got Chugs and Bugs. We got Evaluate Market guys. So that'll be a ton of fun tonight. If you can tune in, check my Twitter for that. Check the First Mint Twitter. But yeah, hit me up on anything. I'm more than happy to help where I can. If I don't get to a DM, I apologize. There's a lot of them in there and I do have other things to do, but I'm more than happy to help when I can. So hopefully we can do this again.
All right. Plunge Father, thank you so much for coming on.
All right.
Everyone else, thank you so much for tuning in and have a lovely day.